Oh, and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blank Gates. We are back to work, and let's just check the audio. Make sure that our audio. Okay, there we go. All right. So today, I just wanted to introduce some ideas to you. Yesterday, I did some thinking. In general, what we're trying to focus on right now is how to calibrate uh, the AI. Sometimes people talk about prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is generally like, what are the elements that you need when you are prompting AI to help you with a task? So, and the idea generally people think of prompt engineering as like, okay, AI, I want you to take this role and I want you to consider these factors, and then I want you to help me to do this, and I want you to think about that in order to produce this outcome. So, prompt engineering, I feel like it is kind of like, what's the word for straws and paper cups? Single use, but there's a, how do we say that? Disposable. So I feel like prompt engineering, generally speaking, it's disposable, meaning we're just going to be using the prompt once, and then after we use the prompt once, then we're going to let it be. We're just going to take the result, and then that's all we want is a short-term result. The problem with that is that, well, that's going to help you with one task. It may help you with one task. It doesn't necessarily give you the best result for that one task, because I believe that the the AI systems can now account for much, much, much longer prompts. I mean, like pages. I mean, like 100 pages. Imagine your prompt is 100 pages long. The question is, how do you get to a prompt that's 100 pages long? And I've been working on two different uh, projects. And the first project, I started out with just a couple of short prompts. And then those little prompts became bigger prompts, and then pages, and then more pages, and then a whole structure for how to think about the concept of preparing your AI and making sure that it is completely aware of what the project is all about and how we communicate with each other throughout the project, and also what like exact aspect of the project are we working on, and then like reviewing the work that we've done, keeping a log of decisions that we've made. And so now I have a whole structure for how I think about managing projects with the help of AI, and I call it calibration tools. Calibration. So we create these calibration documents in order to make sure that the AI has a full and complete understanding of what's going on and can give you very tailored feedback. And I feel like we're definitely there in terms of what that means. Now, after creating all these documents and working with these different projects over and over and over again, it continues to reinforce the idea of like, this recent study that says, well, AI, it doesn't actually have good logic. It doesn't actually think. I mean, I don't know what that all means, but for me, what I'm trying to express is that I do have some thinking processes. I do have some thinking tools. I have some methodologies that I like to use when I'm considering logic. And in fact, you could think of humans as not everybody actually has very good logic when they are trying to make decisions. And not everyone has a good source of metadata types when they are trying to think about how to structure their logic. And I feel like over the years, I've really been focusing on this system of thinking, and I've been really spending a lot of time about logic and how to create the logic. And what I did was I eventually with I used the work of Thomas J. Buck, Crucial Insight, and in addition, I tested this with a lot of different people. And what happened is I've been able to kind of create this little framework for some kind of application. Now, when I talk about the title of today's video, how managers know what to do, then what I'm talking about generally is this application, about how this application works. But what I did was I took the concept and I tried to break it down into a very simple schema, and I call the schema the HSE. Now, I don't know if HSE is like, because at first I was like maybe SHE, we could call it She might be like a little bit confusing. HSE, it's, I don't know. Is that the way to do it? You can't really put ESH, ish, or what about he's? So I don't know. I guess uh, maybe. Anyways, the more important thing is like, what do these things actually mean? And all right, so let's look at the H. The H means headlights, right? So imagine you're driving a car, um, and the question is like, do you have headlights in your car? Think about the most important. What are the most important things in a car, like in order to drive around? Number one is headlights. If you can't see where you're going, then you're gonna have some serious problems. All right. Next is S. So that's steering wheel. Now, okay, so now that we turn on the headlights, that means we can see where we're going. Now we got the steering wheel so that we can maneuver as we are moving forward. And then how are we going to actually move forward is we have to have that engine, right? So this is a real simple way. HSE is headlights, steering wheel, engine. Headlights, steering wheel, engine. And in fact, this is actually the process that you need. So if you don't have a project that you're currently working on, then likely the best place to start is the headlights. And where do we start with the headlights is the brainstorming module. Now, that's not necessarily true. There's this other link right here. You can see this little thing here, right? So the question is, are we going the right way? Are we going the right way? Some people might say, no, we're not going the right way, or we're not sure where we're going, or we need to decide where we're going to go. And yes, there is an issue here about is it possible? We can talk about potential, but this is actually going to be a separate application. So this dotted line is also, by the way, the work that I have over here. So this is a separate application. And the concept of potential from Tom's book is, generally speaking, I mean, simply speaking, the concept of potential is, where is it? It's missing. It's a different document. It's in GameFlow. All right. So the concept of potential from the book Create Crucial Insight is, well, we're talking about potential here. So it means we want to go from A to B. The question is, number one, is it something that we desire? Is this your true and is this what you want? And then next is it possible? And in general, we call that a vision. In Tom's book, Create Crucial Insight, he breaks it down even further. He says potential is a concept about guiding interactions, exciting motivations, and involving resources. So we could just take a couple seconds just to think about that for a minute. Guiding interactions, it means that you have the right people on your team and they're working together in the right way. Recently, I saw a video that was produced by Y Combinator, and they were interviewing the CEO or one of the leaders of the of Cursor. And what I realized was I think I'm going to stop using Cursor because the potential of Cursor, I was already kind of a little bit concerned about it, because when OpenAI purchased Windsurf, then what that meant was that suddenly Cursor has access to the OpenAI thinking. And OpenAI has a lot of data, and it will continue to have access to a lot of data. It's one of the primary sources that the world interacts with AI. So in general, it's like a beast, it's like a monster. And maybe Cursor for a short period of time had the opportunity to develop itself and perhaps and obviously it's going to continue to grow. But I feel like in the long term, I think Windsurf is going to beat out Cursor for two reasons. Number one, the first three letters of windsurf is win. And from a psychological perspective, when you keep seeing this like win, I'm gonna win or windsurf, um, it has like a vibe coding, surfing, windsurf, wind. Like all of these ideas they're light and they feel positive. Where the word cursor, it starts with the word curse. And curse, k, it's like a hard sound. K, k, and curse, the word curse, it's like very negative sound, negative, and it's like very dark. And then the second reason is because the CEO, when he was being interviewed, he made it very clear that the main focus is for them to develop tools for professional coders. And the a number of professional coders is very limited. And over time, it's likely that the number of people using AI to code and the number of people who would like to use AI to code is going to be like windsurf. It's going to be a wave. This wave of people that want to use AI to develop software is huge. And if you are focusing the software development on such a limited market, people who have professional coding skills and who can think like programmers, it's almost like an elitist mentality. And the CEO of Cursor is like basically saying, I am something that is better than everyone else, and people like me are are going to be in control of this for a long time. And I don't think that they see the wave that's coming. So windsurf is now has access to more resources than Cursor, and it has this idea that, well, we want to help everybody. We not just help um, professional coders, but the idea of vibe coding is that anybody can build something, and and it's actually, I think it's going to be a lot more simple to solve those little issues that would traditionally be handled by people who are professional coders than this guy realizes. And so, my issue with software, and you can see that I've been working with these AI tools for quite a while. Remember, in my previous video, quite like a little bit, quite a while ago, I made it very what's it called? Fire Studio made it very clear that Google could create my application. It created it almost it created it faster and more simply than all these tools put together. It's like a headache working with Cursor and Windsurf and Replit, because Firebase Studio did it like almost immediately. And why? It's because it has this huge context window, and it just kept working on the problem and charging me a huge amount of money, but it actually did the job. So it solved the problem in a week. I had that app developed in a week, and now look, I've been using Cursor and Windsurf and Replit for months, and I still don't have my product out. So it means that it's definitely possible to do with Fire Studio. When Google figures out their pricing system, they're going to take over this market unless OpenAI can maintain their some kind of competitive advantage. But in the long term, Cursor is finished. So if Cursor can sell now, to like, this is the time to sell. I mean, maybe the valuation could increase to some extent, but in general, the Fire Studio and Windsurf will rise and Cursor will start to slow down. Why? So it's because of this idea called guiding interaction. Their current CEO has like a mentality which is based on how do we help only professional software engineers. And I'm saying that Fire Studio and Windsurf are going to provide solutions that leapfrog the professional software engineer. So it means that Cursor would need to have some new people on their team in order to understand this change which is coming. Excite motivations. I don't think they have a problem with motivations. I think everybody's fully motivated and resources. Everybody has the resources they need. So, also, I think Cursor is going to have some limitations with their resources because they are so focused on coding. They do not have the same general. So, if we think about Google and we think about OpenAI, both of these companies are a general AI coding, a general AI, generative AI tool, so they have vast amount of resources inside and outside of coding, whereas Cursor only has resources within the coding environment. So Cursor has a weakness regarding resources. They also have a weakness regarding their perspective on how the market is going to be shaped. And so over time, they are going to have a weakness in potential. So if we go back to this diagram, what I'm saying is that the issue with Cursor is right here. Is it possible? And because at some point it's no longer going to be possible for them. And then when that happens, then Cursor is going to have to rethink people, motivations, and resources. Specifically, they're going to need to rethink people and resources. All right. Now, since we're not there yet, um, then we just have to assume that they have the right type of resources, they have the right people, and they have the right motivations. Therefore, we can start in the brainstorming module. So the headlights, the question is, are we going the right direction? Now, this question doesn't actually answer the question that I would like to answer. The question that I want to answer is how managers know what to do. And if we talk about how managers know what to do, I would say that most likely you're not starting with some kind of greenfield project. Nobody is starting from zero. Most people are starting with one and they want to go from one to many. They're not starting from zero to one. If you're starting from zero to one, then yeah, obviously this is the number one question. Are we going the right way? And then probably no, because we don't know which way we're going. Therefore, we start with the brainstorm module, which is the brainstorm module is right here. Now, from the perspective of the software that I'm building, there's a problem here because the first step is to talk about the vision of your project. And maybe that's all you have. All you have is a vision. And then the question is, okay, so do you have an objective? The answer is no. Therefore, okay, so we're going to down to brainstorm. All right. Now that I've gotten all of that out, what I really wanted to talk about today is how managers know what to do. And how do managers know what to do? I would say the first place you want to go is your engine. Right? So your engine is this is like it's a loop, right? And every day, if you're the manager, you're going to go talk to the people on your team. You want to touch base with your team members. And what is it that you want to touch base about? Well, I got some questions here. All right, so when we're talking about the engine, the question is, are all tasks done? If no, then let's talk. Right, so you walk into the office or you plug into your Zoom meeting or your Google Meet meeting, or I don't know what else there is, Teams, I guess. And the first question is, okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. Are all the tasks done? That's right. You're the manager. I want to know, are all the tasks done? And then the guys, they say, no, not all the tasks are done. All right. Well, if not, if the tasks are not done, then the question is, would you like to talk about a task that you're working on? If if somebody needs some input or if somebody needs some follow-up or if somebody needs some assistance, then we need to talk about specific tasks. Maybe it's slightly different. Are there specific tasks you want to add to the list? So if you don't want to add some tasks to the list and you don't have a specific problem or there's nothing you really need, then okay, so let's get to work. Now, if you want to add a task to the list or if you need help with that task, then we can talk about specifically like sources of help, right? So you have a task, you've hit a blocker, then the question is, how can we find some sources of help? And one of the primary tools that I use once we run into this little blocker situation is a prompt. So recently, I've developed a little prompt because of this concept of like, how do I build these calibration documents? And I've created a prompt that you can use if you hope to build some calibration documents. So in this case, calibration documents are definitely going to help you when you're working on some kind of task. And the calibration document is going to be how you can work hand in hand with AI as you are working on a task. And the question is, how do we move from prompt engineering, where the AI is going to be helping you with a specific task, to calibration documents, where over time you are going to be calibrating the AI to be a better companion with you as you're working on this task and the next task and the next task. Because most people, their tasks are somewhat related because they are some kind of engine. Most employees in the company are engines, right? So they have very specific tasks, and the tasks aren't necessarily very interesting. And their job is to be responsible for that specific task. And all they do is that task. And so at some point, what happens is AI is going to be able to take over that task because it's repetitive and because AI is very suited for this type of work. So you might as well start to use calibration documents right now, because if you don't, well, it doesn't really matter because AI is going to take over your job anyways. So you might as well get to know how to use the calibration docs, how to use AI, so that when the change comes, you will be able to stay on top of it. Let's say that there's 100 people, they are all applying for the same job, and you have some kind of AI collaboration document that can help you to do the task. And so it means that with you and with the help of AI, you're able to do the task 100 times in one day. And all of the other 99 people are only able to do the task one time in one day. So that means if you're able to do the task 100 times in one day with the assistance of AI, and the other members, the other 99 people are only able to do the task once per day, it means that you can replace all of the other people. Now, the question is, how do you develop this calibration document so that you, with the help of AI, can do the same task 100 times in one day rather than one time during the day? All right. So I'm going to share that secret with you right now. I, Going forward, I want you to become significantly more intelligent and aligned with how I think and work. To achieve this, I will begin explaining the processes I use to complete certain work tasks. As I share these processes with you, I want you to help me process map them in detail. Here's how I want us to work together. Ask me a structured, step by step series of questions, one at a time, to help break down each work process I describe. Adapt your follow up questions based on my previous responses so that the process mapping evolves naturally and captures the nuance of how I operate. Once we've completed the mapping of a process, I want you to generate a markdown formatted calibration document that contains all essential details, decisions, preferences, and logic that define how I work. This calibration document should be designed so it can be pasted into a fresh AI instance, for example, after hitting a context limit, allowing the new instance to be immediately calibrated to my style, preferences, and workflows. Over time, we will update and version this calibration document so each AI instance becomes more accurate, efficient, and aligned with me. All right, so this is all right. And what does it say? Excellent. I understand this. Maybe we can just listen to the audio.
Excellent. I understand completely. This is a very powerful way to collaborate, and I am ready to begin. By creating a detailed calibration document, You will essentially be creating a personality and workflow profile that I can use to provide you with highly tailored and efficient assistance. I will follow your instructions precisely, asking questions one at a time to build a comprehensive map of your processes. Let's begin. What is the first work task or process you would like to map?
There you go. So you can see that this is a general calibration tool that can be used for anybody, just like this is a general concept of what it means to be an engine. Now, in addition to this concept of engine, I also want to introduce this idea of the hands. What we're talking about is like, who am I talking about? I'm talking about technicians, meaning the people who are doing the service or the production. Talking about the clerks. So we're talking about processing transactions, we're talking about legal work, we're talking about accounting, we're talking about purchases, we're talking about registration, maybe not registration, and subsidies, things like so all of these things can be automated. All of these things can be replaced by AI. And a lot of these things can also be replaced by AI, depending on what the work is specifically. In addition, libraries can be replaced by AI, managing databases, IT, ERPs, QuickBooks, documentation, all this stuff. So everything in here can be replaced by AI. Analysts, we're getting closer and closer for analysts being replaced by AI. But in right now, this is the war right now, is how do you calibrate your AI in order for your AI to better serve you? What can we do? How can we do it? How sure are we? All right. So all of these people right here, particularly the people right here, are the people that I'm talking about when we look at this thing called touch base. Are all the tasks done? No. Okay. So then let's have a touch base. What does it mean to touch base? Touch base means that for 15 minutes or 20 minutes in the morning, we're having a little stand up meeting. And the manager says, okay, what are you working on? And what are you going to do today? Next, we need to know what you need help with, and also what are some potential sources of assistance. This is the key. The first key to management is to help your employees understand what they need help with, and then to help them to find potential sources of assistance. Because if they're able to identify where their blockers are, and then if they're able to figure out how to overcome those blocks, then it'll be much more likely that they are going to complete their tasks. In addition, then we do the little update, which is, can we update a status? Do we need to add or delete a task? And is there a change to a timeline? So at the end of the day, we always go back to our ClickUp or our Jira or our Monday.com to make sure that the tasks are changing status over time. And this is the scoreboard of business. If you are completing more tasks and the tasks are high value tasks, then you are going to be gaining more market share. Now, just like we have this little arrow that goes over here to is it possible, and that's going to go to another application. So if we think long term, Cursor is going to slow down in its ability to help, and Fire Studio and Firebase Studio and Windsurf are going to speed up unless the Cursor team is able to rethink their people and resources. Now, that's a different app. Also, here in the engine, um, we also have an issue. I put the line here above yes. So are all the tasks done? Yes. I mean, the line could be here as well because this is a second app, and this app is about performance issues. And we're not going to go into the ideology behind performance right now. What's more important is just the concept of, can your employees currently identify the blockers, and can they find sources for help? Because you don't actually need to have the skill yourself if you are able to simply identify what the blocker is, and if you're able to identify a source of assistance. And the concept is about management. So if you are managing a team, what that means is that you are managing people who are doing the work for you. And as they complete tasks, then the thing that you are supposed to be completed as the manager, namely the project is also going to be completed. So what's the difference between a manager who is completing tasks through their subordinates and subordinates who are completing tasks through their subordinates, meaning tools or business services? So the important part is not to have the skill, but the important part is to be able to correctly identify the blockers and to find sources of assistance. Now, the performance, of course, is a deeper discussion about like how do we work with our employees, but generally speaking, this is the engine. All right, so what happens if there's are there specific tasks you want to add to the list? All right, so what if your answer is I'm not sure what specific tasks should be added to the list? What does that mean? It means I'm not I'm not sure we're going in the right direction, right? Because the engine is it's just doing tests, doing tests, doing tests, doing tests. Okay, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we need to add some tasks to the list. Okay, what are the tasks? I'm not really sure. Okay, so it means that the problem is not in the engine. Where's the problem? Well, let's move to the steering wheel. So the steering wheel question is, do we have a good task list? No? Then let's talk. The first question for the manager is like the nature of the meeting changes. In the first meeting, what I talked about was the touch base meeting, where you're just helping employees to identify issues and then identify sources of assistance so that they can get through those blockers. But then suddenly it's like, okay, the employee, they don't really know how to identify which tasks need to be added to the list. And if the employee doesn't know how to identify which tasks need to be added to the list, then we need to have a more broad discussion. And what we this is called the objectives. We need to talk about objectives in order to put together a good task list. Now up here, it looks like this. All right. So are all the tasks done? No. Then we go back to touch base. Are all the tasks done? No. We go back to touch base. Are all the tasks done? Yes. Are all the objectives completed? Okay, so now we go back to no. All right. So not all the objectives are completed. Now, this is the same question is, do we have a good task list? You see the color is green. So the question here is, do we have a good task list? Here's, do we have a good task list? So once all of the tasks are completed, but there's another, we need to create a new objective. So an objective, it just means like a group of tasks to accomplish a specific goal. Now, if we're not sure what that objective is, or if we don't have a good task list, then we're back to no. If we have a good task list, then we're just going to jump right into the touch base and then the engine just keeps on rolling. But in this case, we do not have a good task list. If we don't have a good task list, then now we're in this loop. This loop is no, we don't have a good task list. Okay, so then the question is, are we going the right way? Are we going the right way? It means do you have a clear objective in mind? Objective. And if the answer is yes, we have a very clear objective, then we're going to go through the objectives module. The objectives module is similar to the touch base module. The touch base module, it's just like, okay, everybody knows what they should be doing, but there's just some little minute detail in the task that we need to discuss. But the objectives module, it's bigger. So in this case, it's like it means that your manager, they have a very clear understanding of what needs to happen, but your employees are a little bit confused about like the big picture. So in the objectives module, then we're going to be asking the question, what objective would you like to talk about, right? This is the same as what task are you working on and what task and what are you going to do today? In this case, we're zooming out and we're saying, okay, which objective would you like to talk about? And this is your first hint that eventually somebody is going to have to do this work. So the question is, what are the steps to accomplish the objectives if you were to delegate it to someone else? This is the first time that you are going to start to develop a task list. So imagine you're the manager and you have a meeting with your subordinate and you're sitting together and you say, okay, so let's talk about the objective. And then when the manager says, okay, so let me tell you how to do this. The other way you can do this is you can flip it around and you can say to your employee, okay, so what do you think are the steps to accomplish this objective? If you were going to delegate it to somewhere else, to someone else, if you were me, if you were the manager, how would you create a list of tasks for somebody that you manage? And then the person that you're managing, they can start to brainstorm about what they think needs to happen. And then as a manager, you can fill in some of the gaps. Then we can talk about what additional business services are needed, and this is about empowerment. Sometimes employees they feel like they don't have access to the right tools or the right knowledge or the right people. Maybe they don't have a relationship. Maybe they're new in the company and they're afraid to ask for help. There can be a lot of issues when it comes to business services, and also just generally they don't know the whole system. And so, as a manager, you have to be there to help them understand how to connect with those business services. Next is what skills are necessary to complete the tasks. This is really good to ask your employees because then they can begin to talk about what skills they think are necessary. And then very quickly, you can find out that they have no idea that there are certain skills that they should have and they need to develop. And then we can start to list those. We talk about what tools are needed. And then this one is really important is who will you need to contact in the process of work? Sometimes people can get a little bit nervous when it comes to contacting other people. And so if you both have a list of people that need to be contacted, then you can start to discuss how to contact those people. Does your employee have the right contact information? Do they have a good method for creating like writing the email? How are you going to contact them? Where are you going to contact them? What's going to be the content of the contact? What's going to be the medium for the contact? And then finally, who will you need to cooperate with in order to complete the tasks? And suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, okay. So it means that you, my subordinate, need to work with you, my subordinate. And oh, actually, I didn't actually talk to you guys about how to create this relationship, where you're going to be working together, what that's all going to look like. So you can see the objectives module gets everybody on the same page. And once everybody's on the same page, then you're back to the engine, which means you're going to create a list of tasks. You're going to throw it into Monday.com, and everybody's working again. All right, great. So now we're back here. So we realized that we didn't have a good task list, and so we had our meeting. Um, mm, we like the manager knew what the objective was, but the team didn't necessarily know what the objective was. Um, or there was some communication breakup between the team and the manager. So, but they knew they were going the right way. So they had the objectives module meeting. They created a scoreboard, and then that throws them into the touch base. All right, so now we're back into the engine. All right, so this is steering wheel. So imagine you turn a corner, and then after you turn the corner, you push the gas. You see that? All right. Now, okay, we're starting to, it looks like we might be going the wrong direction, or okay, it looks like we're gonna complete this task. Now we need to what? We need to turn left, and then we need to speed up. All right, so then eventually we're slowing down, we're finishing the task, and then we figure out we turn right, and then again. You see, so it's very simple about turning corners and then pushing the gas. All right. Now, sometimes the feeling is that okay, it's actually difficult. We're talking about the objective, and the objective, I don't know, it just doesn't quite make sense. We can create a list of tasks, but I mean, are we going the right direction? Suddenly, we're turning left and we're turning right, and we're not really sure. We hit a fork in the road, and it's nighttime. We can't really see where to go. We got to turn on those headlights. Okay. Are we going the right way? All right. So, would it be helpful to take a step back and rethink the destination? Yes. Then let's brainstorm about objectives in order to put together one or more objective. All right. So, you can see what's going on here is the question is, are we going the right way? It's like, I don't know. I don't know. Then at this, so this is where I feel like, so Cursor thinks that they're going in the right direction, but in fact, what they're building is a short-term um, model. Their model is going to be good for the short term, and if they don't sell within the short term, then they are going to be run over. There's two other cars, that are billowing down the road. Is it the word billowing? Billowing. Well, let me show you what they are. So remember that if we look at the Buchholz drive model, so like I said, there's not an issue with motivation. I'm not saying that Cursor has a problem with motivation. So we're not talking about the level of effort. What I'm saying is that Cursor is going to have a problem with their level of success. They're currently in a leading position. But over time, we're going to find out that they are going to start to lack in ability, they're going to lack in skill, they're going to lack in knowledge, they have the wrong behavior, they have the wrong method, therefore they have the wrong competency, and then they're going to start to lose that leading position, right? So currently they're in this position, which is called a leading position. They are beep, 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 they're green. But over time, they're going to see that other products are starting to take over. They're going to move into a trailing position. How difficult is the task? How skilled are you skilled enough to complete it? Are you knowledgeable enough to complete it? Are are you feeling annoyed because it's too easy or frustrated because it's too difficult? Are you succeeding? What are some strategies to be more successful? So I'm not sure that this is actually going to help so much. Saying that the CEO has the wrong state of mind. And because the CEO has the wrong state of mind, eventually it's going to start to lose ground. So this is the question. Are there some strategies? What are some strategies to become more successful? So what do you do if your cursor? If your cursor, what you do is you're going to go back into Y Combinator because Y Combinator has Lovable. And Lovable is a much, much better um, name for a company than Cursor. It's like the opposite. And then what you're going to do with Lovable is you are going to um, develop Lovable as as a generative AI. It should have some additional generative AI properties. You see, how does Lovable see? Lovable is a very specific tool, just like Cursor. They don't have the background. So, all right, so that you it means you got to create a partnership with Claude, or who else is in the arena? Who else is one of the competing teams? So we need to make a acquisition. Claude acquires Cursor, or Cursor acquires Claude. Otherwise, Claude and Cursor are just going to get left behind. All right, let's jump back into uh, where. Uh, yeah, maybe we could jump into back into here. So when we're talking about the brainstorming tool, then this is what we're talking about. What can we do? How can we do it? And how sure are we? We need to produce some advice. The brainstorming module is right here. It's the brain. So we're going to be using some thinking frameworks and some data analysis in order to make some decisions about what we ought to be doing. We're going to be using the brainstorm module. And the brainstorm module is based on the work of uh, Thomas J. Buchholz in his book Create Crucial Insight. Specifically, if you want to get the dealio, then you're going to want to go into his chapter. It's called uh, State Inventiveness. So this is the book that I keep talking about. And then if we go into inventiveness. All right, so what is state inventiveness about? I've made some slight changes to the state inventiveness checklist, but in general, we can do a little bit of reading based on this. State inventiveness checklist, it says envision matches and mismatches between needs for innovation and proclivities of participants. To some extent, what you could say is that proclivities of participants is the issue of Cursor. Cursor has a CEO, so the CEO is a participant, and the proclivity is the ability for the Cursor CEO to understand the competitive environment. And because the Cursor CEO is a software engineer first mindset, he's developing the tool based on how can he assist highly skilled software engineers. The market for AI tools for highly skilled software engineers is much smaller than an AI first approach to software engineering. And so that mindset is the proclivity of the participant. And the issue is that there are going to be some needs for innovation, particularly when we are using AI to produce software with less and less need for the programmer to understand how software actually works. And so I would say that there is a mismatch between the need for innovation and the proclivity of the participant. Also, if we go to this second part, we can go into more detail, meaning Tom says, too often people miss the opportunity to do the following well at all, adequately well, or well at all. Determine activities or skills needed to effect desired innovation. All right, so what is the activity that Cursor needs in order to affect the desired innovation? Well, this is why I'm saying that they need to have some kind of relationship with Claude because they need to have a much, much larger data set. So the activity is accessing larger data sets, accessing larger pools of human activity, accessing larger amounts of user behavior of participants who are not software engineers. Next, optimize or harmonize teams, activities, skills, attitudes, proclivities regarding innovation. Right, so we need to bring somebody on the Cursor team who is more open to general skills, who's going to move away from a highly focused software engineer approach and start to think about what other data types and metadata types do we need in order to improve our general cognitive ability and ability for our AI chat window within our IDE to serve customers who are not software specialists. Number three, characterize entities or activities based on their foci or various stages of innovation. I don't even know what that sentence means. Characterize entities or activities based on their foci or various stages of innovation. Okay, so we can characterize Cursor based on its focus or its focuses. I think foci is focuses. I don't know. Or their various stages of innovation. Okay, so now at this stage of innovation, the focus of Cursor at this stage of innovation is to help specialized software engineers. But the problem is that if you focus all of your activities on only helping specialized software engineers, then over time, you're going to miss out on this huge, huge, huge pool of vibe coders who are coming into the mix and which will soon be far more than regular software engineers. Also, software engineers, they'll just stop being software engineers. Like, remember when grandpa used to like do his own mechanics? He'd fix his tractor and he'd like replace something in his tractor. And then at some point the system became so complicated and it had computer chips. Like right now, if you go to a mechanic, they actually plug the car into a computer. That's the first thing they do. They don't hit the tire with a wrench. Actually, I don't really see how that connects, but I'm sure it does to some extent. All right, finally, determine opportunities to change emphasis regarding stages of innovation. Exactly. This is what I'm asking for. Now, what happens is if you then you are going to get access to the brainstorming module. Now, after you go through the brainstorming module, then likely you're going to want to go into the choose module. The choose module, similarly, it is also coming from the book Create Crucial Insight. So those two sections are very, very specific ideas. Maybe I should check if I got a French lesson. I did not have a French lesson right now. Okay. All right. So similarly, so you can see this is the schema of Tom's book. So he's saying that the endeavor elements are potential, agendas, and effects. Now, if you look at the schema that I was talking about, remember we talked about potential. And then when we talked about performance, then this to some extent has to do with effects. And so the large schema that we're really talking about is how to make assumptions, how to build scenarios, and how to choose plans. Now, within this, in fact, you can see this thing called state impact. And then there's a line that comes into here. So when it comes to choosing your plans, we want to use the state impact checklist. And what I've done is I took the state, uh, where's the table of contents? It's down? No, it would be before this. Okay. If we go to the state impact checklist, then what we're going to find is that it's the same kind of situation. So the state impact says evaluate courses of action. And that's really the issue here is it says too often people miss the opportunity to do the following adequately well or at all. Measure results from endeavors. Okay, that's not word. Now, when it says in, because remember how state impact was in two different places. Measure results from endeavors would be in the performance review section. Communicate the value that endeavors can achieve or have achieved. Again, this is talking about reuses. It's talking about performance. Use appropriate process to select courses of action. Avoid selecting a course of action without considering alternatives. So this is really what we're focusing on right now is how do we use appropriate processes to select courses of action, and also how do we avoid selecting a course of action without considering alternatives. And the way that we do that is we use the this little choose module. This is a simplified version of the state impact checklist, which is up in this corner. So we go through the brainstorming module, then we go through the choose module. Once we have the choose module, then we go through the objectives module. Once we have the objectives module completed, then we're going to have a scoreboard. Once we have a scoreboard, then we can start doing our touch base. And then we start going again. So there you go. Now, eventually, then are all the tasks done? Yes. Are all the objectives done? Yes. So now let's talk about the vision for the next project. And if you're going to talk about the vision for the next project, then probably like, I don't know, do you have a good task list for what the vision is going to be for the next project? Maybe not really, no. So are we going the right way? Well, I don't know. So then let's just use the brainstorming module to think about the vision for the next potential project. And then after we have the vision for the next potential project, we're going to choose a project. Once we have the general project figured out, we're going to go through the objectives module to discuss in general the vision. And then that vision is going to give us the scoreboard. Now, in this case, the scoreboard is going to be a list of objectives. And then we're not actually going to go to the touch base. We're going to take that list of objectives. We're going to select one of the objectives. And then we're going to go back. And with the one objective, we're going to build a task list for that one objective. So that there is what it's all about. This is the mechanism behind the application. I call it headlight steering wheel engine, and it is how managers can figure out what they should be doing. Either it's a problem at the task level, it's a problem at the steering level, or it's a problem at the headlight level. And in addition to this basic framework, HSE, there also may be an issue with performance, or there could be an issue with potential, but those are going to be separate systems. And we also introduced the idea of how to create calibration documents. and I hope that you had a wonderful experience, and we will catch you later. Bye bye.